Welcome to Spiritually United Paradox, literally language of the heart speaker gathering. All our speakers are shared in our WhatsApp audio groups and our speaker channels. The links will be dropped in the chat. If you're listening to the recording, struggling, and seeking help, please reach out to connect at sipx.world and the crew will reach out and get back to you. Each week we read from the doctor's opinion to page 164, and today we're reading the end of the paragraph. So I'll hand it over to you, Scott Lee, and we're inviting Scott Lee from Tennessee to share for the next 50 minutes. Over to you, brother.
Joey, thank you so much. And thanks for the invitation and blessings on everybody. My name is Scott Lee. I'm an addict. I've got a bad case of it. I'm actually what's known as try addicted. I'm addicted to everything I try. Maybe some of you can relate to that. That's me. I'm actually a pig. My drug of choice is whatever you had the most of. Uh, and I like to open anything I do with a few moments to invite God to the meeting. Just in case you don't have a God, borrow mine. I recommend it very highly. Been keeping me clean and sober since 28 June 1984. I've got a 41-year chip in my pocket. That's a long time for a guy that only agreed to 28 days. So if you don't have a God, borrow mine. Address him as a God of Scott's limited understanding. And I'll meet you back here. Let's ask God to come to the meeting with us. Amen. I should also tell you I have a central nervous system disorder that causes my head to shake like this, and I don't even know what's happening. So it's going to look like I disagree with what I'm saying. I don't. I may later because I'm still learning. But if I say it today, I mean it. Don't trust the head shakes. We're on Roman numeral 31, xxxi, about halfway down the page. And I'm just going to read to the end of the chapter. Well, I'm going to read and talk. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. Patient had made his own diagnosis and deciding his situation hopeless and hidden in a deserted barn determined to die. What they didn't tell here is that he was there with 2 gallons of vodka and his determination was to drink himself to death. Continuing, he was rescued by a searching party and in desperate condition, brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment a waste of effort, unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great, they felt his only hope would be through what we called then moral psychology, and we doubted if even that would have any effect. However, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. He's not had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he's a fine specimen of manhood as one could hope to meet. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. It talked about depression there, and that this is just for me. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in June of 20. They took my teeth, as you probably noticed, because they had to kill my jawbone. They did so much radiation to my face, they literally killed my jawbone. It's still here, but they killed it. And you can't have live teeth in a dead jawbone, they said. So they took them. And I went through radiation and chemo. And that is a tough assignment. Believe me, it is. And through the course of that, I did the things I had been taught. I've actually read this book quite a few times. My guess would be it's over 200. And I can give you 5 different pages that talk about recovery's got to be fun. I can give you 5 that say some of what I know for sure ain't so. I can give you 4 that say I create my own misery. But the single theme that runs wider and deeper than the other is be of service, help others. I read the book one time from Roman numeral 11 to 164, and I counted 52 places where it said that. And it's the overwhelming theme in there. It makes no sense at all. So what I did, because I got into depression twice in the 6 weeks I was going through those treatments. And for me, depression is nothing more or less than sitting around thinking about myself in a bad future. That's what it is for me. And the way I got out of that is I picked up the phone and called you and said, what's going on in your life? How can I make it better? How can I be of service? When I tried to lift your spirit, it lifted mine. Part of my morning prayer for a long time has been that I don't miss any opportunities to be of service or spread love and joy. We've had a lot of people moving to my town for the last 10 years. We've got traffic jams now. 10 years ago, we never had them. We do now. We got them all the time. And for a while, when the traffic on the interstate would come to a stop, I would sit there and just fume. Not anymore. Now what I do is I reach into my vest pocket. I pulled out a clown nose, and I'm carrying them, by the way, all the time. I also reached a little bit deeper and pulled out a vial of bubbles about the size of my traffic finger, just a small one. And I began to blow bubbles out the window. Dave, I see some of you got that traffic finger thing. And what happens is the other drivers see the bubbles as they look toward my vehicle. They see me in the clown nose. They start laughing. When they laugh, I laugh because laughter is contagious. Now, we're still stuck in traffic, but I've turned it into a party. If we stay stuck, if there's a wreck or we're going to be here a while, I shut it down, start passing these out. I'm carrying a supply of clown noses and bubbles in my car all the time. And if I don't have at least 2 of these in my vest pocket at any given time, it's because I've given them away and I haven't got back to my stash because I carry them all the time. Because I frequently fly. I'm walking through an airport very frequently or a grocery store. And there'll be a mom there with a couple of kids. And these are good kids. I'm telling you right now, these are good kids. They're just having a hard day. And I put on a nose. I get about 8 or 10 feet away from them. I blow one stream of bubbles, one stream. Crying stops right now. And kids will lock onto a stream of bubbles like a good bird dog coming on point. And I walked up to the mom. I said, look, I'm a stranger, so I don't want to give your kids anything, but if the kids can have the clown noses and bubbles, I'd like to give them to you. What happens when I do that? What happens is those kids have their day lifted. Who else? Mom for sure had her day lifted. Who else? Everyone that saw it. Who else? Me. If I'm sloshing love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. And it just doesn't seem to matter what's going on in my life. My answer is to try to be of service to you. That makes no sense at all. It works every time. It is just one of the most amazing things. I've never seen anything like it. Another thing is, as part of my morning prayers, that I don't miss any chances to be in service to spread love and joy. Another one is greetings. I put a smile on my voice before I answer the phone. That's one of God's kids. Even if it's a spam, it's one of God's kids. And they deserve a big, happy welcome. And I give it to them. Another one is a greeting. If it's someone I know close, if it's someone I'm close to, somebody in recovery, they say, how are you? I usually say something funny like, I'm guilty as charged, Your Honor. I've been using that one recently, and all my friends laugh at that. But most often, I will use one of the next 5 or 6 I'm about to share with you. Greetings. So the question is, how are you? The answer is, I'm blessed almost to tears. How are you? I'm so blessed, I think I must be God's favorite kid. How are you? If it's any better, I'm going to have to become twins just to receive it all. How are you? If the genie pops out of the bottle and says 3 wishes, I'm going to have to tell him to take the day off and call me tomorrow. I got nothing to ask for. How are you? My all-time favorite from a guy named Ed Mutum. If you don't know that name, your education is lacking. Do yourself a big favor. And I got this one from him. I said one day, Ed, how are you? And he looked me in the eye and he said, so much better for seeing you today. And I would say that to all of you. I am so much better spending time with all of you today. You are a blessing in my life. We are the most fascinating people in the world. I'm sad for people that don't have alcoholism or drug addiction because they don't get to hang out with us. And we are one fascinating group of people. So part of my daily mission is to look for ways to spread joy. One of the things I do, if you find a heads up penny, it's lucky you pick those up. No. We leave those. And if it's tails, I bend down and turn it over. I am 82 years old. I've been down. I think, is there anything else I need to do while I'm down here? Because I don't want to come back. And I leave a lucky penny for somebody I'll never meet. I check out of the grocery store, I put my $50 bill in, I get my change. I take the paper change, but I leave the coins. 40 cents, 50 cents, I leave it. And the next person comes through that kiosk, finds 40 or 50 cents, and it lifts their day. Cost me 40 or 50 cents, and one of God's kids got their day lifted. I'd say the price is about right on that, wouldn't you? When I hold that focus, it changes everything. Everything. When I'm about to do, I play bridge. I don't have a serious case of it, but I play. And before I go to play, I pray and I ask God to help me not be competitive, but to lift the spirits of everyone there. Help me help everyone else there have a better time. And it makes me have a better time. I do that wherever I'm going. For a situation like this, I reference page 13. I'm going to skip around the book just a little bit. Joe took the bridle off of me, and I'm going to ricochet around. For those of you who read the big book regularly, you have to read it frequently to find all the new stuff. Last year, they made a couple of changes, Billy. I see that you're familiar with that situation. I see Catherine is too. Yeah. On page 13, they made two major changes last year. It wasn't here. I know it wasn't. The 11th line, last word, friend, capital F. It's reference to God as a friend. I got here, as many people do, afraid there might be a God, based on some very well-meaning religious people who've been trying to scare guys like me into being a better guy. God's will, and God will get you. And I got here afraid there might be a God. It isn't possible to do step 3 with a God I'm afraid of. So it was necessary to trade that one in. The other thing on page 13 is at the bottom. It says, my friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator. New. Huh. So that indicates that I had a relationship with God before I got here. And I didn't know I did, and I did. It has a name. It's called 911. See if you recognize any of these pre-recovery prayers. God, please help me pass this test I didn't study for. Here's a very popular one. God, please don't let her be pregnant. The ladies tell me that one can be prayed in the first person. Right, Dave? And another very popular one is, God, please don't let those flashing red and blue police lights be for me. Another pre-recovery prayer is pretty common. And my all-time favorite, the one I think is the main one, when I was using alcohol in copious amounts, usually happened between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd be in the bathroom kneeling on the prayer rug. That's that little half moon of carpet they put around the commode for you to kneel on. It was invented by one of our people. And we're right over, and we're at the point in the proceedings where there's nothing coming out but noise and occasional tear. Remember that part? And then I would pray the pre-recovery prayer, God, get me out of this and I'll never do it again, which is alcoholic praying, man, as I'm sure you know. And I don't know how many times I did that. I don't know. I think quitting drinking and drugging is not a difficult thing to do. It's very easy to do. It's so easy. I've done it over 2,000 times. I quit forever and meant it with all my heart. Didn't you? Think about it. Didn't you mean it with all your heart every time you quit forever? Didn't you? And here we are. And here we are. And so my problem was not lack of information. It was not lack of motivation. It was not lack of education. My problem was lack of power. I didn't have the power to stop. My sponsor explained it to me many years ago that alcohol and drugs, he said, are not your problem. I said, what? He said, they're not your problem. They're your answer. Make you taller, smarter, better looking. You can talk to the girls, expert on many subjects, fantastic dancer. How am I doing, kids? Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And I had to pay the high price for any one of those and did. But the big one was all of a sudden something inside me released and I could breathe. And suddenly it was okay to be Scott. I became convinced as a small boy that I was not good enough. Things wrong with me can't be fixed or even worked on. Became an actor as a small boy. My act is I'm going to pretend to be the guy I think you want me to be. And use to find us who's in front of me right now. So I know being Scott can't work. I know that. That is the single most important truth in my life when I come to you. That I'm broken. There are things that can't be fixed. And so I'm watching these movies. I got to be something else. I'm going to be the second coming of John Wayne, except for the fighting. I can't risk this gorgeous face in the fist fight. But except for that, I'm going to be the second coming of John Wayne. And this is a personality I take on. See if this fits you. Here's the personality I take on. Big boys don't cry. Put yourself up, be a bootstrap. So to go and get stuff, the tough gets going. Never let them see you weakness. Never ask a stupid question. Get what you wanted to make you happy. Never surrender. Never give up, no matter what. Never apologize. It's a sign of weakness. How am I doing? That's the act most of us are doing most or all of when we get here, based on that core belief that I'm not good enough. It turns out all of that was garbage. That stuff was all exactly perfectly wrong, all of it. And that's how I ran my life. That's literally how I ran my life. When we talk about having to make some changes, holy mackerel. And it was very difficult for me because I didn't have a friendly God. How am I going to make the change? And I come out of this, the haze. I got clean and sober on my 41st birthday against my will. My boss had said to me a day or two before that, "You're going to treatment right now or you're fired." The man was a great communicator. He could like explain things in just a very few words. And so I signed into this treatment center to overcorrect for a problem I didn't have. That's how I got here. So I don't care how you got here. Yeah, the question. Some people come to recovery because they feel the heat, others because they see the light. I'm a heat type. I came because of the heat. And the heat will bring me here, but it won't keep me here. I had to develop a hunger for the light. That's what keeps me here. And page 46, the last paragraph begins with the word much. Count up 3 lines above that. It says, "It was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God." My sponsor says, "The teacup of my mind cannot contain the ocean of God." So I got to get out of the business of trying to understand God. That's not the assignment. We talk about God as you understand Him. We're not saying you're going to understand God. You're not. We're saying you don't have to believe what anybody else ever said about God. And we don't care how qualified they claim to be. We simply don't care. I think probably the 2 best pieces of news I've ever gotten in my entire life are in this book. The first one's at the bottom of 46, actually 5 lines from the bottom. It says, "We found that God does not make too hard terms for those who seek Him." Let me translate that into Tennessee English for you. God ain't mad at us. That's some good news. That's not what I've been told. That really helped a lot. The other one's on page 62. My sponsor told me I was too sick to stay sober on the fellowship. I would need the program also. And he gave me the definition. Here are the steps we took, suggested as a program of recovery. So we get to page 62. It says, "Selfishness, self-centeredness that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms, driven, not mildly bothered on rare occasion, driven by 100 forms of fear. Fear is the deep concern I may not get my will at some time in the future." You know, we got these funny expressions we use. We say things like, "I'm having a good day," or "I'm having a bad day." Let me translate that for you. "I'm having a good day" means God's will is being done. "I'm having a bad day" means God's will is not being done. That's exactly what that means. So 100 forms of fear, the concern I may not get my will sometime in the future. Self-delusion, I believe my own BS. I've only got 2 brain cells left. One of them creates BS, the other one buys it. Self-seeking, I'm full throttle after what I think I want. Self-pity, poor me, I didn't get what I wanted in the past. Self-pity, poor me, I'm not getting what I want right now. Pour me a drink. At this point, my sponsor said, "How would you like some good news?" I said, "Well, I would like that." He said, "How would you like the very best news you're ever going to get in your entire life?" I said, "I'm open, babe. Hit me with it." And he said, "So our troubles we think are basically brown making." I said, "Was that it?" He said, "That was it." I said, "Man, I don't get it." He said, "If the problem really is the cops, the courts, the judges, the Russians, the Chinese, your future ex-wife, her mother, and their lawyer, if those people really are the problem, you lose. The good news is that you, sir, are the problem. If you bring some willingness to the party, we can work on that." Willingness, bottom, and surrender all have the exact same definition. Is when someone who's qualified, my sponsor, asks me to do something I don't like, that I don't think will help, that I don't think matters, that I don't want to do, and I do it anyway. Is that do it anyway? It defines willingness, bottom, and surrender. There are people serving long prison sentences who are not at bottom. There may be people that I'm talking to right now that aren't there. I need that do it anyway. And He said, because if they have to move a quarter of an inch, you're cooked. The good news is that you are the problem. And once you become the problem, there's hope. The book actually makes that point more than once. Um, it said it on page 53, as I recall, paragraph in the middle of the page. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis. Self-imposed. Huh. Page 64. It appears twice on page 64. 3 or 4 lines down. Unless at once followed by strenuous efforts to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. I'm the problem. 2 paragraphs further down. First, we start out to flourish flaws in our makeup. Page 103. At the very bottom, in italics, which I think they put italics when they're trying to shout at me. After all, our problems with our own making. Page 133. 5 or 6 lines down. But it is clear we made our own misery. God didn't do it. I think they're trying to tell me something. And as soon as I become the problem, there's hope. If I can bring that willingness I just talked about to the party. I want to tell you a couple of stories just for fun. I had an experience some time ago. I was sitting by a stream, and strange enough, did not have a fishing rod in my hand. That's very strange for me. And I looked across the stream and saw a cloud. I'm looking at that cloud. I thought, I bet, as a matter of fact, I'm sure, every drop of rain in that cloud is following God's will perfectly. There's no question about it. They are. And I thought, and there's a tree over there. I thought, well, so's the tree. And there's a bird in the tree. I thought, well, so's the bird. And I looked down into the stream, and there are minnows. I thought, well, those minnows are following God's will perfectly too. Why can't I? It was on me hard. If they can, why can't I? I got my answer. The answer is, I am. I do not believe God put me here to be perfect. It's not my assignment. If you think you're supposed to be perfect, I wish you good luck. You're going to need a lot of it. But if it's not my assignment to be perfect, what's my assignment? My assignment is to make mistakes. They've said the right guy. Ha! And all my life, they say, well, we learn from our mistakes. Really? Well, if that's true, I'm not looking at anyone who's been arrested more than once. Good luck. No, 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 no. People like me do not learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. And an enabler is someone who takes away the results, thereby blocking the learning process. So here's the learning process as I understand it today. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified I made a mistake. I don't always know. 3, own the mistake. Fellas, I did that. If they only know 80%, I have to tell them the other 20. That's how I own it. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend. Usually, there's an amend to be made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes with making the amend, not with making the mistake. I don't always know I made the mistake. The lesson comes with making the amend. That's why step 9 is the freedom step. I came here and I was absolutely certain the first time I read them, steps 4, 5, and 9 are designed to punish me. They're going to be exceptionally painful, troublesome. They're going to be awful experiences. It's going to be terrible. I was certain of it. And I was wrong. And if you're new, you are too. 9 was the freedom step. I'm encased. I'm imprisoned. We're not punished for our sins. We're punished by them. And I'm in a prison made up of the feelings I have for the mistakes I've made that have harmed other people. And holding God's hand with one hand and the sponsors with the other. As I go through the amends process, I free myself from that prison. So in the learning process, go back to that again. 6 is embrace the lesson, which I get as I make the amends. 7, share the lesson. When I share the lesson, it really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I just shared the lesson, I'm preaching and nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, they can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. I have no idea what God's plan is. I know what his will is. It's for me to screw up. It's why I'm here. It's my mission. A mistake is just an invitation to a lesson. And I don't have the power to make mistakes so ugly that God can't turn it into magnificent. That's who I am. That's who he is. And it is that simple. So there's a tremendous freedom that I have given myself and that I have my own permission to make mistakes. I expect to make mistakes. My history is when I realize I made a mistake, there's energy there and I use it to beat myself up. That's not what it's for. I've read this book quite a few times. There's nowhere in there that lets me beat myself up. It ain't in here. No, never. That energy is there to propel me through this learning process. That's what it's for. I've been squandering it. So I have my own permission to make mistakes, and that's a tremendous freedom. It's only half the freedom. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. Let me define you. That's major politicians I like and don't like. It's all the guys I sponsor. It's all my family members. It actually includes my husband-in-law. I see some puzzled looks. I'm from the South. My husband-in-law is the guy that's currently married to my first wife. That's a husband-in-law. Karen, that's a husband-in-law. Has my permission. Those of you who got your driver's licenses out of cereal boxes, you have my permission to make mistakes. Because if I'm going to be upset by your behavior, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. And I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. So half the freedom is I have my own permission to make mistakes. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That has freed me at a level I just not know was available. I have discovered the source of all my anger. I can tell you where every bit of it comes from. It comes from being sure I'm right. I've never been angry when I wasn't also have to be certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. I have to judge to be right to be angry. So judgment is anger's grandmother and is the core problem. That's why anger management doesn't work. Anger is a symptom. The problem is judgment. And if I know anything for sure about God's will, it's that he does not put me here to judge. That is not one of my assignments. And anytime I'm angry, I have judged. I realized that some years ago, and I added to my morning prayer that I don't judge any situations or any people. I see them as you see them and love them as you love them, especially the ones I find unlovable. That's a really important piece for me. Now, and I'm not saying I'm at 1,000, but it has changed me dramatically. On page 87, in the reading on step 11, it says we pause when agitated. It actually says we pause when agitated or doubtful. But we're alcoholics and addicts, so we don't read that doubtful thing very often because we're not right very often. We're never in doubt. But it says, yeah, right. So when I find myself angry, it says pause. I think God's waiting patiently for me in the pause. Father, I'm angry again. Please take away this anger and judgment and grant me sadness and love. I claim to serve the God of love, and it's a full-time job. And anger and love never travel together. They can't. It isn't possible. So anytime I'm angry, I'm wrong. And I ask him, take away the anger and judgment and grant me sadness and love, because sadness and love travel well together. I go back into a situation with sadness and love, it changes everything. It changes my heart and it changes there. When I go back into it with anger, it gets ugly and I eventually make an amends. And I'm not real fond of making amends. When I go back with sadness and love, I do not find that I make amends. I go back and say, I have a great sadness. I am deeply concerned. Feel how opening that is? It's a whole different thing. And I can't change me. I don't have the power. If I could change me, I would have changed me. I would have told Joey, no thanks. I just changed me. Go on my merry way. Don't have the power. But I have the power to make good decisions today as to what I will do and not do. The day before I got to recovery, how I feel was the most important thing in my life. It made all of my choices. And it put me in detox. That's how I got to detox, was chasing how I feel. Today, this day we're in right now, how I feel is the single least important thing in my life. I did not sleep well last night. That's real unusual for me. I'm not worried about anything. I don't know anything's troubling me. I just didn't sleep well. Woke up this morning. I didn't feel good. I did not feel like doing my morning prayer and meditation. Did I do my morning prayer and meditation? You bet I did. You bet I did. I had phone calls scheduled with some guys that did I feel like talking on the phone? No. Did I talk? You bet I did. I took that quiet time and invited God into the conversation. It's easy for me with 41 years, first thing in the morning, to invite God into my day, invite him into my life. You know what's hard? Is to invite him into each moment. each moment. I had an experience a number of years ago. I was driving down one of the main drags in my city, and I stopped at my fifth traffic light in a row. And I'm a type A person. I get in that car, I am going somewhere. I stopped at the fifth traffic light in a row, and I'm sitting there steaming, and I'm thinking evil thoughts about that traffic light's mother. When it occurs to me that it's at least possible that God has put those traffic lights in my way so I don't have a wreck with a gasoline truck, I don't know. And I began to have that lesson presented to me. I'm just now, 40 years later, beginning to get it. And I offer God the moments, to offer Him the moments, especially those moments when my will isn't being done. That those are reminders, they're opportunities to turn to Him and say, Thy will be done, and mean it. And mean it. I'll give you an example. I'm 82 years old. Up until a few weeks ago, I had a young girlfriend. She was 78. And you shouldn't be laughing at that. That's not funny. And she says to me one night, as we're leaving, let's see, Wednesday night, tonight is meeting night. My home group meets 2 blocks from here. We meet at 6 p.m. I want to leave home at 5:29. Takes me 1 minute to drive there. I was taught to be 30 minutes early from my home group. She says, I'm thinking about buying a house in your neighborhood. I've located one online. I want to look at, can we leave early for the meeting? Go look. I said, certainly. Well, when I said certainly, I was not aware of the simple fact that leave early is not one of her settings. But anyway, we eventually, after driving over most of the North American continent, we locate this house. She realizes instantly it won't work. Then she says, can we stop at the dollar store? I want to get one item. What flashed through my mind was, in my morning prayer, I asked God to bless me. I might love her, I might cherish her and treasure her. That I would be an open channel for Him into her life, and her an open channel for Him into my life. And what flashed through my mind was, what would a guy who treasured and cherished a woman say to that question? And the answer was, of course we can. So we pull up in front of the dollar store. She goes in. I stay in the car in prayer, because I'm about to be presented with a 24 karat gold opportunity to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to need some divine help if I'm going to pull that off. So I'm checking in. And she's gone what seems to me an inordinately long period of time to buy one item. And I don't know what that item was. I can tell you it came out in 2 bags. And as she got into the car, she said, I'm really sorry it took so long. There was a homeless guy in line in front of me who couldn't afford everything he'd selected, and I bought some of his items for him. And I said, that's one of the reasons you're sitting next to me. So we pull up in front of the church. It's just a few blocks away. The meeting has not started yet. Okay, we're still before the meeting. A large group for my home group is 25. I know them all. As we pull up to the church, I see a young man I don't recognize walking up the steps. I shut it down, open her door, get my big book out of the back seat. And as we walk into the church, this young man's coming out. I stopped him, introduced myself. He's a newcomer. He couldn't get all the way into the meeting. He just couldn't do it. And I was able to take him into that meeting, introduce him around. There's a pretty good chance I gave him a sponsor. I do that a lot. I'm not sure of that, but there's a pretty good chance I gave him a sponsor. I'm not taking any credit for what you just heard. Can you see it? If my will had been done, I would have been at the meeting at 5:30. I'd have been inside with the door closed when that newcomer was unable to come into the meeting. I don't know whether that changed his life, but it changed mine. God's timing was dead solid, perfect. Boy, what do you have, a 30-second window? 30-second window to hit for me to be walking in when that kid was walking out. And so I've come to believe that in those moments when my will isn't being done, those are invitations for me to check in with God. I have had some success with that recently. I'm not batting 1,000, but it has improved dramatically. I think it is the single most difficult assignment I've ever been given. For the longest time, I thought the one here on page 86 was it, because it took me so long to begin to incorporate it into my everyday. I'm gonna read it to you, because I don't trust what's left in this mind. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. On awakening, I like to observe what it does not say. It does not say after shower and shave, 2 ovaries in bacon, half a pot of coffee, reading the front page in a fight with her. It says on awakening. I think that might be what it means. I set my alarms 31 minutes apart. When the first alarm, we talk a lot about the next right thing. There's a last right thing. The last right thing is for me to go to bed at a reasonable hour and set my 2 alarms so I can have a full night's rest and wake up tomorrow morning with plenty of time to start my day on a spiritual basis. If I don't do the last right thing tonight, I can't do the first right thing tomorrow. In early sobriety, I didn't have time for morning prayer and meditation. I just didn't have time. I finally realized I'm working on the wrong problem. The problem wasn't in the morning. The problem was the night before. So I set alarms 31 minutes apart. When the first alarm sounds, I take a quick trip to the bathroom. I hit the start button on the coffee pot. That's set up. I just hit the start button. And I commence my morning prayer and meditation. 30 minutes later, the second alarm sounds. Now, sometimes that second alarm wakes me up. I'm good with that. I would know step 11 says sought through prayer and meditation. It does not say achieved. I'm only responsible for making the effort. And on those days where I sought and went to sleep, that's good enough because I sought. Do you feel the freedom in that? And so I guess I'm going to cover my morning prayer with you. I didn't know I was going to do this. I find it helpful to begin my prayers by thanking you for a bunch of stuff. And it's very random, just all kinds of things. It seems to open the channel. I think all the blocks between me and God are at my end. His end's clear, okay? My end is where the problem is. And I don't think he needs to be thanked. I need to thank him for me. So I thank him for a bunch of stuff. Then I invite him in as God, as CEO, as manager. I use all those terms. Offering my day and my life. I ask him to empty me of self and fill me with his love, shaken together, pressed down, heaped up, overflowing, and may gush out of me all over everyone I meet today. I ask him to make me a great giver today, to make me a great listener. One of the most loving things I can do is just listen, not sit there writing this brilliant thing I'm going to say when you finally shut up, but actually listen with my whole spirit. Guy named Don Major. If you don't know that name, do yourself a big favor. Get one of his workshops on step 6 and 7. He was amazing. When you were in his presence, when you talked, he listened with his whole being. It was astonishing to be around him when he did that. So I pray to be a great listener. I pray not to judge. I already told you about that, not to judge people or situations. I pray that I might be a great student. I believe planet Earth is a school. I think I flunked out of somewhere else. I was expelled as a behavior problem. If you heard the whole story, it'd make perfect sense to you. And the first lesson was lesson 1. Scott, how's it working when you run full throttle after your own life on your own will? How's that working? That's step 1. People ask me sometimes, what's the hardest step? Step 1 took me 41 years, right? So I pray that I might be a great student today if he has lessons for me. I already told you about praying not miss any chance to be a service or spread love and joy. I pray for help in staying in today. The second hardest assignment I've ever been given is one day at a time. I first saw on the wall, yeah, don't drink today. Yeah, don't take drugs today. Sure, it means that. It means also live only this day. Keep my mind here where my feet are. My mind wants to go into the past, reliving victories, some of which may have actually happened, or off into the future, trying to figure it all out. Plan B and plan C. What if this, what if the other? And I'm rarely between the claps right here, right now. And right here, right now. It's where all the action is. And I've been missing it all my life. There's one who has all power, that one is God. And you find him now. That wasn't when I find God, it's where. My God is the God of right here, right now. When I go into the past and future, I go to places where God isn't. That's a bad neighborhood by definition. I have no business there. I need to be between the claps right here, right now. I can see about half of you. Do something for me. If you're okay, right this very second, nod for me. If you're okay right now. All right, good. Thank you. How about now? How about now? To get right here between the clouds. Yeah. My mind can learn a lot from my feet. I can learn a lot from my feet. So this one day so all the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. And I need to quit seeking answers that don't contain the word today. I want to fix the rest of my life, and that's not the assignment. So the question is not, what am I doing about my finances? That's a terrible question. The question is, what am I doing about my finances today? Feel the difference? What am I doing about my relationship? No. What do you do about it today? Massive difference. Stop trying to fix the rest of my life because it just makes me crazy and I can't do it. It's not the assignment. It's just simply not the assignment. Um, so at this point, I'm back to my morning prayer. Um, I go into what I call the love meditation. It came out of the first men's retreat I led in 1989. We were talking about a lady in a home group who had just come out of a coma. She said while she was in the coma, she could feel the love and prayers being sent to her. And the love meditation was born. The mental image is that there's a column of love about the size of the top of my head. It comes down out of heaven, down through the top of my head, out my nose, my mouth, and my chest. And I send it all over the place. I send it to politicians I like and don't like. I send it to all my sponsees, all of my family members. I send it to all the places I'm going today. So there'll be some love there when I get there. And this morning, I sent love to all of you. Sometime around first light this morning, I sent love to all of you. And I meant it. And it's just a wonderful thing. And when I finished the love meditation, I asked him for a couple more things. I asked for humility. That used to scare me when I did that until I found out the difference between humility and humiliation. A single event can produce either one of those. If you point out to me something I should probably change, if I'm stuck in my ego, I'll be humiliated. I will hate you and I will plan your demise. If I'm in my spirit, I will thank you and embrace the lesson being presented. Exact same event. I pray for humility. I pray for more faith. I've had a lot, and it's not enough. I pray for more faith. I didn't plan to be 82 years old, and I didn't plan it financially. And I've got a lot of people close to me that are multimillionaires. And sometimes it's hard for me. God and I have been arguing about money for some time. And you know who win in that. And I got this gift just a couple days ago. And when I realized is, if he said, okay, how much do you want? I don't have a number. And I got my number. And so I asked for that this morning. Please give me the exact amount of money I need to be the best servant I can be for you. That's it. That's my number. Bob Darrell, I hope you know that name. Do yourself a favor. He told me one time, he said, I can tell you the exact amount of money you need to be happy. Exact amount. I said, how much? He said, $5 more than you will ever have. Money won't do it. Money won't do it. And I believe that's right too. So this whole thing we do is about progress. There are events in recovery, but the whole thing is about progress. My home group is the Page 112 group in Old Hickory, Tennessee, which is Metro Nashville. For those of you who don't know, the first three words on page 112 are read this book. And that's what we do. And I have the privilege of leading men's retreats every year. I do quite a few of them. And we always open with a page 112 meeting. The way we do it is we ask you to introduce yourself, give us a page number, give us a minute to get to that page, and then read us a paragraph or less and tell us why you read it. It can be because you don't like it. We don't care. You got 3 minutes. And we skip all over the book. And it's a double win. The old timers get to show off their knowledge of the book, and the newcomers get excited about the book. It's a fun thing to do. I've been doing a little bit of that with you. But I was in one of the gated communities a number of years ago. That's a state prison for those of you who are not keeping up. And they all had big books. And I had them do a page 112 meeting. Here's a gift from them. Page 456, 5 lines from the bottom. AA has accomplished so many things in my life today. It's given me and my sanity and all-around sense of balance. Now willing to listen and take suggestions I've found. Process of discovering who I really am begins with knowing who I really don't want to be. It's what the first 5 steps are about. If you're about to do your first 4 step, let me tell you a couple of secrets. Here's the first one. There aren't any surprises. You were there. We're not going to find something you don't know. And you have my permission to do a lousy 4 step. Get out there and do the worst possible 4 step. Do a terrible one. Because if you have to do it perfectly, you can't pick up the pen. Give yourself permission. Because if you're serious and you're going to stay, you do this thing we do in less than a year, you're going to be taking a newcomer through this work yourself, and you can go with them. We'll pick up the pieces. We do not give a special trophy every year for the best four step. And this is the trophy you are not going to get. For those who can't see, it says four step trophy, never awarded. You ain't getting it. So get out of doing it perfect business. It's just tearing your mind up and it's blocking you. Yeah. And that was some awfully good advice that I got. Um, I'd like to share a couple of things with you. My third sponsor picked up the nickname Rusty. At the end of his drinking, he was drinking mouthwash mixed with Kool-Aid, and he wet his pants so many times his zipper rusted shut. And we nicknamed him Rusty in honor of the zipper. And he loved his nickname. You're fortunate if you get a nickname you like around here. It doesn't happen to everybody, but he loved his. Here's two gifts from Rusty. The first one was, I'm not responsible for what I think. I'm responsible for how long I think it. I can't keep garbage from showing up in my head. When it gets dirty up here, I can sweep. That is my responsibility. I don't need to sit around and fondle the disease because it's trying to kill me even today. Even today. The other one from him, which may be the single best piece of advice that I have ever gotten. He said, in the history of this planet, no one's ever been put in an insane asylum for being insane. Never, not once. They put us in there for acting insane. Nobody's been let out for being sane. They're let out for acting sane. So on those days when you're crazy, if you don't act on it, they won't know. Don't tell them they're not ready. Pick up the phone, tell one of us we're ready and we are not all crazy on the same day. Might be the best piece of advice I ever got. I'll tell you a story. My own personal favorite sponsor call that I've ever taken. This guy was sober well over 20 years, probably over 30. And I'd been sponsoring him for at least 10. And I just love him dearly. I looked down and see his name on the caller ID. I answered, hey, man. And he goes off like a bomb. Now I'm going to clean this up quite a bit because I don't think it's possible to carry a spiritual message in a bucket of sewage. One of the things I had to do to walk with you was to learn to speak the language of the heart instead of the language of the gutter. And it has taken me quite a while. I've had success, but I worked very hard to delete the foul language from my vocabulary. And it's an important thing for me. So I'm going to have to clean this up quite a bit. Took him about 4 breaths to get this first part out. But he says, is today a good day for me to tell my wife she's an ignorant witch? It kind of went on from there. And I said, hold, please. And I gave him a 10 count. And I said, I just checked it today. It's not. He said, are you sure? Hold, please. I gave him a 5 count. I said, yeah, I just checked again. I'm absolutely sure today is not a good day for you to. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. That was the entire phone call. Now let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What happened was he was about to destroy his life and he knew it. He picked up the phone and called his sponsor. And I'm good. I'm really good. I am nowhere near that good. And this gentle, laughing, loving God reached down and opened my heart and spoke through it and told him to take a 10 count and a 5 count. And he went back and did not destroy his life. I'm not taking credit for that. I don't get credit for that. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Who's had the experience? Somebody asked you a question. The moment before they asked, you did not know the answer. And you open your mouth and not BS, but a piece of the great golden truth that you didn't know falls out. And 3 hours later, you can't quote it. Sometimes you can't remember what it was. Who's had that experience? Look at them all. Look at them all. Yeah. For those of you who are new, that's what happens here. My buddy Joe Krogan, if you don't know that name, do yourself a big favor. Krogan calls those things postcards from God. Dear Scott, you must be doing something right or we couldn't have pulled that off. I love you and I got your back. Love, God. This picture you see over my shoulder is me at about 4 years old. And some time not too long after that period was taken, some things happened to me should never happen to any child. My sponsor added the prayer on page 552 to the 4-step inventory. And through that process, I received the gift of forgiving everyone. Forgive is not something I can do. Forgiving others is not something I can do. Something I had to open up to receive. It takes me a long time to tell this whole story. I can't do it all now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please find out. I'm going to post my contact information in the chat here in a couple of minutes. But anyway, through that process, I became emotionally disconnected from all the things that happened to him. And through the process of step 9, 10, and 11, I become emotionally disconnected from all the mistakes I made. There's still facts in my past, but they don't hurt anymore. And I was looking at that picture one time. I thought, who would he have become if that stuff had not happened and he received all the love and nurturing he clearly deserved? Who would he have become? And I got my answer. The answer is that's my assignment. It is my assignment to become the man he would have become. If you're new here, we're not here to change you into anything. You're already everything you needed to be. You just didn't know it. We're going to help you evolve into the real you. That's what this is about. So let me tell you about him. He woke up every morning just excited to be alive, fascinated by simple things like sunrises and butterflies. He loved everyone. He was completely unconcerned with his future because he had complete faith in those who provided for him. He was in touch with his emotions. He never used bad language. He laughed easily and frequently. He was open to learn. He judged no one. He was happy, joyous, and free, living in each present moment as it came. That's what you've done with me. And that's what we're here to do with you. I'm not bragging about me. I'm bragging about you. I'm bragging about what goes on in this book. I want to thank the God of my very limited understanding for coming. I believe he opened me right up. That was an awfully fast 50 minutes for me. I hope it was for you. If you borrowed my God, do it again. If you invited your God, that's what the moment of silence is for. Acknowledge the presence of deity. I want to close with a reading that I also got from the gated community on page 459. I'm sorry, 457. From experience, I've realized I cannot go back and make a brand new start, but through AA, I can start from now and make a brand new end. Please, everybody, do hearts. I love you. That's all I got.